Who's ready for a weekend? I'm ready for a weekend.
I'm not. I'm ready to work. I want to make things happen. You know what I was doing last night till 11 o'clock? It's funny. This is normal people, like they stop for the day with work, like whatever, maybe 6 o'clock, and they go home, they spend time with their family. So yesterday I did that initially. I stopped. I went and hung out with my wife. We watched some Netflix. We're trying to get through Stranger Things, the last season.
Yes, Stranger Things.
And so we watched a couple episodes of that, and then she's like, all right, and she's getting ready for bed, and I'm like, all right, I'll see you. And I hightailed it back to my home office here, and I was working on writing sales copy till 11 o'clock last night. So it was fun. That's what I do. That's why I'm a nerd. So but now that got me like pumped up, like now, because I'm learning how to write these sales letters that are going to be used in videos and other things. And so now I'm all excited about it. Now that's all I want to do. That's what I'm going to be doing all weekend. Actually, this weekend, I'm going to be recording very possibly the last of the Bulletproof Bookkeeping videos. I am very close to finishing that course. So tell your friends and family about it, because once I finish, it goes up to the normal price. And then I'm going to be getting on to the next course, which is Property Management with QuickBooks Online.
Hey Seth, are we live?
We are live. We are live. Good morning. Happy Friday. It's July 26, 2019. You know what's funny about that? That started a long time ago with Doug Sleater. I don't remember exactly, but it was like one morning he started doing it, and that's how, because he was in Hawaii and he was doing this Aloha thing. And anyway, that goes back a long ways. But when I go to, set these up to put them up on the website, I look for that part of the video track when we're all doing this. So no, that's where we really kind of started. So it's great. I gave myself a nice little visual cue for how to clip the video.
So yeah, I've been doing this with you the whole time for a long time, and never knew that it was Doug Sleater's.
Yeah, it's Doug Sleater who started it. So just when you get a chance today, give Doug a shout out on Facebook or wherever, and say, hey, we were in the Zoom and we were talking about you. And
he's probably out in his little workroom, whatever he's doing, carpentering.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah, no, and I got a text message from Katie Robinson Peterson, something. Katie. She works for Intuit now, and I guess she was visiting with him. So she sent me a text and a photo of them together. So that also put Doug sort of top of mind. What a great guy. I really wish he was still like more around and doing what he used to do, but I also understand completely why he's not. He's enjoying life. We should all get to do more of that. So, who wants to talk about Slack? I have got quite the show prepared for you. Very special treat. Let me just move some windows around here so I can share my screen. As always, for the kids watching at home on the live Facebook feed, just post your questions and comments right there on the live Facebook feed. If you're watching it in the Between Wall and Main Strategy Forum, then post your comments right there in the thread. Matthew, as usual, I'm going to make you a co-host so you can help me monitor stuff, and also so you can mess with everybody's names and photos and whatever else it is that you do in the background when I'm not paying attention. Let me get live on the Facebook feed. All right. So looks like just a couple people watching on the live feed. And it's interesting, very few people ever actually really comment in the group itself, but I know a lot of people like to watch it there.
I do watch parties and live things, and very rarely do people comment. Very, very rarely.
Yeah, they don't. I think it's just the nature of our community somehow for some reason, because
I don't know that it's just the community. It's just in general.
I think it's the community because I see in other like marketing forums, when people go live, there's like hundreds of comments. You know? Well, and I can't tell you. Sorry, Matthew, go ahead.
You got to call out to him like, if you are watching this in the replay, put #replay in the comments and be sure to like this and share it.
Yes, that's the problem, and we don't do that.
Yeah, maybe we should start. Because I can't tell you how many people over the years and continue.
Well, give us the call of action.
Yeah. All right. Well, like and comment, and even if you don't have a question, just comment and say you like it, and let us know you're here and watching, and say hello, and give us your mother's maiden name, your social security number, and your account and routing number, and we'll get back to we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Sorry,
like
do you mind to face up?
Nice. All right, let's talk about Slack. I'm going to use the 97 and up Slack workspace here today to kind of demonstrate a lot of the stuff that I want to talk about. How many of you have, in fact, seen the video that I did that's on firmofthefuture.com about Slack? So that at least hopefully we have a basic understanding of the process. I see like nobody. You're all fired except for Matthew. All right. Well, today was designed as kind of a follow-up to that. So I don't want to spend too much time going over that, but I'll give you the quick sort of breakdown, which means
Jessica Fox saw it. I just had to mention that.
Okay. Jessica doesn't have her camera on. Okay.
And Stuart Holden.
And Hobden, yeah, he says he doesn't have his camera on. Gina put hashtag Nerd Enterprises on the video feed. That's perfect. Or you can put hashtag Talk Nerdy to Me. That's the other one we like.
I like that one better.
Talk Nerdy to Me. All right, so this is a sample My Client Slack workspace that I use specifically to demonstrate how I set up Slack with clients. And I want to get one big question that I get asked, even though I've answered it so many times. Obviously, not everybody gets to hear the answer every time I answer the question. So I'm going to answer it again this time before it gets asked, which is, do I have a separate Slack workspace for each client, or do I just do separate channels in a single workspace? And the answer is I do a separate workspace for each client. And the reason is to do it the other way. My opinion, take it for what it's worth, 2 cents, maybe a little less. It defeats the purpose. If you're doing a single channel, then you're still having one run-on conversation with the client about every subject. So might as well just text them, right? There's no way to organize it when you're doing it that way. And for me, the point of getting them in Slack is to be able to organize conversations and easily, the phrase I love to use for any of this kind of workflow related stuff, this is communications workflow, right, is what Slack is. It's all about communications. It's all about getting us out of the email inbox and into an environment where I can organize, categorize, and easily reference information, in this case, conversations, right?
Another argument, Seth, is that if you have all clients in one workspace, you would have to have private channels for the clients. Otherwise, they would be able to see the different channels.
Right.
Private channels are not backed up.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about the not backing up part. Even if you're paying for it?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's what I understand, unless it's changed in the last little while.
I thought if you're paying for it, everything's backed up.
No.
Very interesting. Oh, maybe because when you're like...
Because it's private.
Yeah, because it's private. That's probably why.
Plus, another thing is that it would be more difficult to use Zapier, I think, with private channels. I'm not sure if you can actually go into a private channel with Zapier.
No, I'm sure you can't. Because
So
the same reason. It's supposed to be... Because just like if I transfer ownership of a Slack workspace, which I've done in one case to a client, I got reassured by Slack that anything in any private channels, any DMs would not be revealed to them in any way. So that stuff that's kind of the point of it. It's kept secure. So excellent points about that. But the most important reason for doing it this way is because this is the way I do it, right? Just kidding. Some people are like, wait, did he just say that? Did he really say that? Is he that much of a control freak? So Slack workspace for accounting clients. I start with the balance sheet. I add other things as I go, when and as the need arises. But when I'm starting to set it up, I'll start off with a banking channel. Obviously, this is where we talk about bank feeds and bank accounts and reconciliations and any of that kind of thing. Usually, I will also have accounts receivable. So I have the accounts receivable, which is like a general AR. But I did a video once on this where I gave the example that sometimes if there's a particularly big client that my client deals with, and we need to have a more focused conversation around one particular client of theirs and their accounts receivable, then you can certainly create another channel called AR-Client X, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sharing your screen?
I was supposed to be. See, Greg's not here with us. It's his fault. Thank you. Here's my screen. Do you see it? Okay, perfect. So what I was showing you that I didn't realize I wasn't actually showing you is here I have a banking channel. And this is where we discuss all the banking related stuff. Accounts receivable, right? As I'm going down the balance sheet, I'll see payroll liabilities. I'll say, okay, so we have payroll. Let's create a payroll channel. If there's sales tax payable on the balance sheet, then we probably have sales tax, so a sales tax channel, and so on. I also like to include a channel here called About, which, or if you're in Canada, it's a boot, right? It's the About channel. Sorry. Tiffany's like rolling her eyes and shaking her head. Thank God we're not in the same room together. But this is a channel where I will kind of use this to sort of query the client and get more information. Oh, here comes the chat about their business. Shaylin says, we don't say about.
That's right. You say a boot.
A boot, right? It's A-B-O-O-T. A boot.
A.
So I use this channel to ask clients questions about their business. You know, like an easy example of this is one of my clients is an e-commerce company that sells classic fountain pens, right? Now, by and large, I don't need to know a whole lot about their products to know how to do the accounting for it. I need to understand the workflow. I need to understand their cost of goods sold and so on. But it's certainly helpful to learn more about their business. And so I was poking around on their website one day, and I noticed they have some pens that cost a lot of money. And so curious to learn more about their business and what the nature is of what they do and understanding more about who their clients are. I asked them, they were the ones that I first came up with the idea with to create this channel, because then I went into the channel and I asked the client, I gave them a link to one of the pens that they sell on their website that sells for like $2,500 for a single pen. And I'm like, what makes this pen so valuable? You know, and so the guy answered, and it gave me a lot of insights into, you know, what their business was really all about. So I love doing this channel because it gives me a place where I can have open dialogue with the client. And I think the clients love this kind of thing because it shows they actually care about their business. I'm not just trying to, you know, get accounts reconciled just to move on to the next thing. You know, I actually want to know and learn more about them. Certainly create a budgets channel if you're doing that kind of thing for a client, or it might be called projections. I think of budgets and projections as sort of overlapping. There really is a difference in concept, but the way I usually do it is bigger picture is I create the projections, and then pieces of that projection, especially where the expenses are concerned, become the budget for, you know, here's how much you have available to spend on each line item each month, and so on and so forth. So anyway, we go on from there, and you just create the channels that you need as you need it. Obviously, the general channel kind of comes with Slack. It's one of those default channels. I always create a Learn Slack channel because to a lot of clients, Slack is new. So this is the place where they can go to ask questions about, hey, how do I do this in Slack, or can I do this in Slack? And then in this, I also, since I use Smartsheet with a lot of clients, I've created a Learn Smartsheet channel. So as long as I'm going to have the client in here communicating with me, I might as well give them the various forums to, you know, get answers from me about my processes, right? So this is going back to something Tammy brought up before we went live today about like which apps we're going to use with the client. To the extent that you're using them with the client, you might want to have a channel in Slack for each of those apps. So if you're using HubDoc, right, have a Learn HubDoc channel or just a general HubDoc channel so you and them, they can get questions answered around that app and how to use it and who's doing what with it and so on. Or Bilby's is the one that I suggest using. I like it better. Meetings is a channel I'll use where I'll just post, I'll post the links to when we're going to meet on Zoom, right? You like the picture, Matthew? And then as you can see, I have an example here of where I dropped in a Google Doc for the meeting notes, from a meeting that we had, but this is all fake because it's just a sample channel. PayPal is often an area that requires a lot of attention with clients, so separate channel for that. Plans, this could have to do with what the bigger picture plans are for where we want to go with the client. I might actually, now that I'm looking at it, probably more be inclined to these days to call this like goals or something, right? There's the random channel. Sales tax I mentioned. Tax returns, almost always have a channel for that, where we can discuss their tax returns. Even though I don't actually do taxes, usually what I'm using this for, especially in the beginning, is I might even have them drop their returns in here because they can just drag and drop PDFs. So I can get them and make sure the books agree to them. And if not, I can make the books agree to them, right, with my whole trial balance adjustment process. Gina says that pen better write all by itself. No, these are, very custom tailored, like they're called classic fountain pens because they are classic, and he fine tunes the nib specific to each user. So when you buy it, you explain to them if you press down heavily or lightly, and they customize the nib for you to make sure that and these are not cheap pens. They're very expensive. They're the kind you can either dip in the ink or you can put the little ink fillers inside of them and write that way. And it's clearly most people would never spend that kind of money on these, but the people who use them are kind of like diehards. Like they love writing with these kind of pens, right? So anyway, little sidebar there. Uncategorized always have this channel because this is where we can discuss uncategorized transactions. In fact, recently, and I was surprised how many people were blown away by this, but I guess, I just forget that before I thought of it, I would have been probably blown away by the idea too. But especially when I'm working with clients in QuickBooks Online, I can drop a link in here directly to a transaction in QBO and just have them go and comment on it themselves. It's funny, I started doing that with one client who does have access to his own books. And so he just started clicking on the links and going and fixing the transactions himself, which was perfect. That my job is done here, right? So I love the idea of putting the link to the uncategorized. Now, of course, if there's a list, I'm putting it in probably Smartsheet. So in here, I would put the link to the project in Smartsheet just to make it easier for the client and say, hey, client, here's the latest uncategorized transactions in Smartsheet. Please go through and comment on each of the line items and let us know, where we should code these or what the purpose was so that we can figure out where to code them. So that's the basic overview of how I do this. Any questions so far? Nothing? Everybody's quiet? Gina put the Talk Nerdy to Me hashtag in there on Facebook.
When accountants are quiet, Seth, that means that they're thinking.
Oh.
I have a couple questions.
All right, Dennis.
Couldn't find my unmute button. Where does it tell you who the client is in the workspace? You said you have one workspace per client.
Well, so this is called My Client, for example, because this is just a sample, but you name the workspace accordingly.
Oh, so like John Smith or whatever?
Yeah. Now, on the left, notice I have a lot of workspaces, and I use, obviously, logos and things to sort of identify them. Like, this is Bilby's logo, right? Okay. This is that company Classic Fountain Pens I was talking about. Okay. So I set up the images. When you're setting up the Slack workspace, you can upload the image that goes with that workspace. So obviously I do that. Usually I try to find the client's logo to do that with so that I recognize from their logo who's who. But as you can see, if I move my mouse over it, it says like there's Curbside Salvage, right? That's another one of our clients.
Second question. So you pay $8 a month per workspace, is that correct?
I pay nothing until I hit that 10,000 message limit. And then I decide if I want to pay, because if I don't feel like paying for it, they'll just drop off the oldest messages. I generally have paid for them in most cases, but with the 10,000 message limit, I've only got 2 clients that have reached that limit so far, and it's been a couple of years.
For example, you could have, say, 5 workspaces with 5 different clients and not pay anything. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. It's only when you hit that 10,000 message limit that you have to start paying.
So
there's certain features that you have to have a paid account to access.
Okay.
Right?
Is it 10,000 messages per client or 10,000 messages in total?
Each workspace is you get a 10,000 message limit. So if I go into here, for example, it will show me, it doesn't show me here because I'm nowhere near the limit, but it will show you in this drop-down dialog when you're nearing that limit. Like if I go into Classic Fountain Pens now, obviously I can't because there's confidential stuff in there, but I know that this one has been showing up. They're at 7,000 messages, right? So they're coming close to the point where I'm going to need to start paying for them.
Can you go in and delete messages to stay under the 10,000?
I'm not sure, but even if you could, I would never do that. That's not something I would ever want to spend time doing.
Okay. So
because again, if you're going to do that, just let the old messages drop off. Those are likely the least relevant anyway.
Okay, so they would start dropping them off, or you'd have to tell them.
Yeah, once you hit the 10,000, you'll get a notification saying, hey, you've got to upgrade. If you don't, you just lose the oldest messages.
Oh, okay. So
unless you start paying for it, and once you start paying for it, those messages are actually available again.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, you could have all sorts of clients if you kept each one of them under $10,000 or 10,000 messages. You could basically not pay anything.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to encourage you to do is think differently about that.
Right. I'm just saying if you wanted something really basic, but
Yeah, but think differently, honestly. Don't start thinking, because it's a very minimalist way of thinking to start thinking about, oh, let me delete messages and this and that. The way I think about this is going to save me so much time. And it's a high value thing I'm offering the client. So I don't offer this for cheap. You know, it's part of my service, but I charge well. I don't charge $250 a month for clients, right?
okay.
Bare minimum I charge is $500 a month, which means when it comes time to pay for one of these, I have made more than enough money with that client to justify the expense.
Okay, so in order to set this up, you would send some sort of invitation to the client?
Yeah, first you go in and you go to slack.com and you create the workspace, and in the process it's going to ask you to create the subdomain. Each workspace has a separate subdomain, so it'll be like client.slack.com. And then once you've set it up, again in this drop-down menu, I can go invite people.
Okay.
And you can actually copy and paste a group of emails, or you can invite them one at a time. You can also get a link now. You can get an invite link, which, and you can set an expiration, because the concern is you don't want people like passing these links around and just inviting anyone in. Although hopefully you don't have to worry about that with your clients. So if you're not worried, you just choose never expires. You create the invite link, copy this and send it to them in an email. And hopefully that's the last email you ever need to send to them, because then they'll be in Slack, right?
Okay.
Hey, Seth, why is it that I have to actually go in on any device I want to have Slack? I have to go through and like add every single different channel or whatever. Like,
because each one is a separate subdomain.
One on there right now. What's that?
What?
Your little bubble thing that has the one, like that's a separate channel, right?
That's 97 and up. Yeah, that's Accounting Business Academy. So that's a notification. I'm going to guess from you. Right? So if I go to all on reds.
So I have a question.
Somebody has a question?
Yeah, I have two workspaces, the Slack one, the 97 and up, and my own, but I have to go to separate tabs. How do you have yours like icons?
Because you're doing it in the browser. So I probably haven't mentioned that to you yet, but what the first rule of Slack, you know how the first rule of Fight Club is we never talk about Fight Club? The first rule of Slack is you never use it in a browser. It's set up that way so you could log in and access it, but the reality is it's built to work in the app, right? Don't ever use the browser for Slack. It's a terrible experience, right? I'm using the desktop app here, and of course the same applies on the mobile. You definitely want to install your Slack mobile app.
So is it like Dropbox where everything's synced together with the browser?
Huh?
For example, if you have it in the desktop app and you do does it sync to the browser if you wanted to read that stuff?
It's not synced. See, the sync concept is kind of an old concept, right? Mm-hmm. This stuff doesn't sync. This stuff just lives and breathes in the cloud. So if I do something here and I open it up on my mobile, it's there. Like there's no sync button to push. It's just there. You know, you're just the Slack desktop app is really just a window to where it really lives in the cloud, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, to answer your question, the answer is yes, it works like that, but it's not, I want to teach people to think about this the right way. It's not syncing anything. It's just, It just lives in the cloud, and this gives you a window to what's living in the cloud.
Okay.
Right?
So
it's
if you don't have
stream. Go ahead.
So if you don't have internet, you can't use Slack?
Correct. And I don't think there's a version to use it like offline like you have with Google Docs and things like that. So yeah, you definitely need an internet connection to work with Slack.
Okay.
Matthew. So, and as you can see, as Matthew's posting stuff in our 97 and up channel, you know, it gives me the notifications. I have unread mentions here. Slackbot lets me know Shannon joined. Very good. Welcome, Shannon. The general channel here. And as you can see, you can drop anything into a Slack message, a picture, a PDF. You saw a Google Doc, right? There's lots that you can do with this.
So the security is like Google level security as far as the, if you want to put tax returns up in there?
Let's put it this way. I trust their security. You have to make your own decision about whether or not that's something you can trust. I can't speak to it from the perspective of sort of guaranteeing you that their security is good. Right. You know, that's a personal decision you have to make. But I do trust their security. And generally speaking, if you're ever wondering about a company's security, just email app and the word security, right?
Mm.
And, just go research it, right? Obviously, I want to learn from the source. I don't want somebody else's opinion. And here it gives me slack.com, but pay attention to where it's going. Here is slack.com/security. So that sounds like that's going to be the page that speaks to their security, right? They actually have the accounting SOC 2 and 3.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yep. Okay. FedRAMP, ISO, which is your banking encryption, and even HIPAA.
Mm.
And I think that's newer. I don't recall them having HIPAA compliant security. So they do have every bit as good security as Google does, now that I know that they have HIPAA even, which is interesting. I did not know that they had HIPAA.
And you do have to be careful when you go to the known domain and then with the slash after it, because I have this problem. My website is payrollsolutions.com or payrollmankato.com.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some domain or there's some links out there that are payrollmankato.com/something else. And that is not my website.
Can't be. That's impossible. The .com, the last .com, what some things will do is they'll have payrollmankato.com/something else with another .com that comes after it. There's no way they could spoof your domain like that. It's physically impossible. So show me an example of what you mean so we can take a look at it, because what I've seen is it'll have like bankofamerica.com something else. So you have to pay very careful attention to how that URL is structured.
Hey, Seth, you know how you have like Excel master superpowers?
Mm-hmm.
Canon has superpowers of domain craziness.
I do. I'm trying to find the image of it so I can send it.
Yeah, or better yet, if you can send me the actual URL, because I'm very confident that I can show you where it's not actually payrollmankato.com. There's another .com somehow coming after that. Because I can put a .something in the middle of a URL, but what matters is where's the last .something in that URL. The last one is the one that counts. Everything else is what's called a subdomain. So I can create a subdomain that looks very much like payrollmankato.com, but it would have to be payrollmankato.com.nerdenterprises, right? Or something like that. And then /.
I just forwarded you that email.
All right. Email-wise, you sent that?
Yeah. I can't put it in chat because it's an image.
Okay, let me take a look at this.
That's one of the beautiful things about Slack is you can actually copy an image and go straight into Slack just by copy paste.
Yeah. But that's true. You could have put the image in Slack.
Yeah,
I'll drop it into Slack.
I joined Slack 3 minutes ago. I'm not an expert on it yet.
Come on, Shannon, get up to speed with us.
I'll get there.
All right, I have not gotten your email yet.
All right. Well, let me do this. Okay. Do you just drag and drop?
Yep, just drag and drop.
It doesn't seem to be working.
Are you in the browser still? You wouldn't have installed the app yet, I wouldn't think.
Oh, wait.
You can also, if you're looking at my screen, you can also click the little paper clip, which is the universal attachment button, and you can choose like your computer and browse to it that way.
Okay, yeah, I'll get there. Give me a second.
All right, I'll look for it. Let me just check that your email didn't somehow go to spam.
So I still don't understand why, like, again, if I have a laptop, 2 laptops and a desktop, and I set up Slack onto all the different devices, why do I have to go in and add my, every channel that I want to have, I have to add it again to every single
Because each one is a separate subdomain, so each one has to be logged into separately. It's not going to know just because you installed the app that you're logged into these 20 different channels, nor would I want it to. I don't always want to be logged in. Like on my mobile, I'm not logged into all these channels, right? I don't want to be logged into all these channels. On my mobile, I sort of prioritize the ones that I want to be logged into. So I actually want that flexibility anyway. But mainly from a technical standpoint, it's because, look at Linda. It's because these are each subdomains, and each subdomain has a separate and distinct login that goes with it. So let me get into a couple of things here, because we've already eaten up half the time, and I didn't even get into any of the stuff I wanted to today, which is fine, because I guess we have a group here that isn't as experienced with Slack as I had sort of thought.
You have a part 2. Maybe you have a part 2 Slack.
I'm looking on the live feed, and my friend Vivian comments. She says, I saw the word Slack and the word nuggets, and my brain read it as snack and nuggets. And that got me to thinking about chicken nuggets. I'd better go eat breakfast. So Shaylin is asking, how can we join your Slack channel? If you're talking about this one, the Accounting Business Academy, that's part of the 97 and up Accounting Business Academy program. So if you go on to, I'll show you exactly how you can join it, because it's part of a sort of a bigger program that we have, where if we go to new.nerdenterprises.com, because everything is now on the new site, and if you go to courses, you'll find Accounting Business Academy right here. You can join. I can give you a coupon code that's good actually just until July 31st. That's expiring very soon, which will get you $97 a month for life, as long as you keep the subscription. But join here, and then that gets you access to a course, 2 weekly calls that we do on Zoom, and this Slack channel, which is where we talk kind of all the time. All right, here it is. So first of all, this is payrollmankato.net. I thought yours is .com, right?
It was .net until I got hacked in March, and then I couldn't gain control of it fast enough. So in May, I gave up and put .com.
Okay, so this is not your website anymore. It's somebody else's website altogether.
No, it forward, and now I finally got control back over it in June. So it is, if you just type in payrollmankato.net, it takes you to payrollmankato.com.
Okay, then this link shouldn't work. Let's test the link. There's no way that link should be working or workable. Let's try it. And it's definitely spelled right. It's
Yep.
payrollmankato.net. All right. First of all, let's just go to the root domain and confirm this is your site, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so now what they're doing is just tacking on it /outsourcing.html.
SHTML.
Thank you.
And you need to change the .com to .net.
Ah, somehow the dot didn't work.
And that is not my site.
That's really weird. Somehow they've got a redirect configured on, oh wow.
Yep, anime porn. We're back at it.
So your site, but that's a problem with your site though. Somehow they've gotten into your site and gotten that redirected. What I would actually do is, how's your site built? Is it built in WordPress?
Yeah, WordPress Divi.
There's a company called Sucuri.net, SUCURI. Somewhere in your site, there's a file that's making that happen. There's no way it happens any other way. So you still have an issue on your site that needs to be addressed. If you go to Sucuri, SUCURI, Security WordPress, it's a plugin you can install. They'll run a scan on your site. They will likely find there's malware on your site. That's what's causing this.
Yeah, and I changed hosting companies.
Doesn't matter. It's in the code.
I even went back to draft code, so I had to rebuild my website. So I don't know. I have no idea where it came from.
Yeah.
So
get with those guys. They will find and
it.
fix the issue, because there's definitely, again, there's no way somebody could get access to your URL like that without having a file implanted somewhere in your website that does it.
If anybody's watching this video later on and knows actually or does this for a living, please reach out to Shannon. She could use the help.
I need all the help I can get. Yeah,
right. All right, so let's talk Slack. That's what we came here for. So a few things I want to show that I've run into, because everything we've done so far is well covered in the firmofthefuture.com website, right? So definitely go watch that video. What I really wanted to get into today was some of the little nitty-gritty details that I know people are sort of missing or overlooking somehow, right? So first, let's get into a little bit of an overview of the workspace preferences, right? Especially if you're going to run your own Slack workspaces with your clients, you should definitely get familiar with this. So if you go into preferences, one thing I want to point out is that you want to definitely spend some time here in messages and media, right? And you can, you have some preferences with respect to the theme. Go through these options. Make sure that you are happy with these options. Make sure that you understand them, right? Even little things like emojis, inline and media links. You can show images and files uploaded to Slack, show images and files linked from websites, and so on, even if they're larger than 2 megabytes. Keep in mind this eats up more storage on your Slack plan. And I guess there is a storage limit of some kind, but I've never encountered it. Or maybe it's only relevant if you have a free site. Text, but here's the main thing I want you to be aware of is you can forward emails into Slack. Each user has their own unique email address for each workspace. So that if I have because here's what happens is I start out with a client, I tell them, all right, all communications go in Slack, and the client out of habit continues to email me, right? So what I want to do is I want to actually get this email address, copy it, go into my email client, hit the forward button, paste that email in, and when I do, it's going to show up here in Slackbot. So Slackbot is going to bring that email in. Let me see if I have an example of one maybe that I did recently. Here. So here's one that I forwarded in. So it comes up in Slackbot initially. I can click on it to expand it to see the whole thing. Okay, and then from Slackbot, and it does that on purpose because otherwise it would need a separate email address for each channel, and that would get a little ridiculous, right? So once the email that I forwarded is here in Slackbot, I can hit this arrow, which is a forward button, and I can choose to share it into any channel I want by just starting to type the name. And when you see a hashtag in front of something, that means it's a channel, right? It's one of those channels that you've created that's on your sidebar. Excuse me, so I can quickly share this with any channel. I can share it into the general channel, which I'll do right now. This looks like something I'd gotten from Active Collab when we were still using that I was excited about. And notice once I finish it, it redirects me to that channel and shows me where this is, right?
Beth, is that email then searchable?
Searchable where?
In the search bar in the top of the Slack channel on the right there?
No, it shouldn't be because I wouldn't want anybody using that email because each user gets their own.
No. I mean the content that you shared into the space, is that content then searchable?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I think it is because I can select text like this. Let's find out though. So let's go into the search box and search for Active Collab. Let me make sure I spell that right. And yeah, this is definitely that message from today. Yep.
That's cool.
So email forwarding is big because that's how you're going to start to train your clients. So when they email you, you forward the email into Slack, then share it into the appropriate channel, tag the client and say, let's discuss this here, right? So little by little, you're training the client that that's where communications are going to happen now. They're going to happen in Slack. They're not going to happen in email. So you have to kind of redirect them a little bit in the beginning. Next thing, notice I have mine branded pretty, right? This color coding that I have in my channel is consistent with my Nerd Enterprises branding guidelines. And I'll show you how we do that. Because that's going to be important. If you notice, if I surf through, like here's the between wall and main Slack channel. This is sort of the public one. It's kind of it's kind of dead. Like nobody ever really goes in here. Every once in a while I'll come in and type something and I'll get a reply from somebody, but there's not much going on here. But this was something I created to work in tandem with the Facebook group. And I thought this might be better because we could organize conversations, but people just really didn't. It's funny, people didn't buy in. I think largely because it's free. It's funny how then I have a paid one like Accounting Business Academy, and everybody's in here all day sharing, and it's a lot more active. But anyway, you'll notice there's different color schemes, which is important to me because it's how it helps me get that visual cue so I know what planet I'm on, so to speak, right? So the way we do that is, again, if I go into preferences and the sidebar preferences, right? And they have templated themes that you can choose. Notice I've custom coded mine. And then once I've done that, it gives the hex codes, right? But watch this, what Slack has done, which is really smart. If I want you to be able to, just grab these colors and have yours look exactly like mine does, watch what I can do. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to copy this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share them with Matthew. And then Matthew, what I'd like to do is have you share your screen. And then I want you to share your screen first. And then I want you to click on that where it says switch sidebar theme and show everybody how in a click I can have you set up your Slack workspace to look exactly like mine. So all Matthew has to do now is click right there at the bottom where it says switch sidebar theme. And boom, in a click, he's got now all those same hex codes set up for his theme, just like that.
Which is really cool because you can mess with me since I'm color dumb.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Put your glasses on.
That's neat though. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, it's and so it's very cool, and it's a very good way to, like I said, give yourself that visual cue to make sure that you're clear on where you are. The last thing I'd want to do is go into a client's channel and think I'm in my internal Nerd Enterprises channel talking smack with Erica about one of our clients, right? That would be very bad. Next thing, basic communication. So we've started to see this. Obviously, we have the whole workspace, right? The workspace consists of lots of channels, right? Or maybe not lots, but channels nonetheless. And you'll see like what I do, and I do this in between while I'm main, and I've done this here. We have channels that talk about different apps. In order to group them together in the list, I have apps underscore and then the app name. And the search works within that. So if I'm looking for the stuff on Airtable, when I go into the search here, if I start typing Airtable, notice down here the magnifying glass is going to search for messages with the word Airtable in it. With the one with the hashtag next to it is actually the channel, right? So that's going to take me right into the Airtable channel. And by the way, a quick way to access that search button, this is a recent change. This command used to work a little differently, and I was actually kind of disappointed about this. Had a conversation with Slack HQ on Twitter about it this week, and they actually thanked me for my feedback. But if you press Control K, that gets you right into the search dialog. So Control K, and now if I wanted to, I could search for Matthew, and it knows that Matthew is Parkway Inc., so I can quickly jump over to my direct and private sort of dialogue with him over here. So you have channels, and then you have direct messages, and direct messages are private conversations between you and that person, right? Nobody else can see that but you and that person. You can also create little private message groups where you can add 2 or 3 people to a conversation, but often I find that ends up serving its purpose better by just creating a channel. Unless you want to keep that conversation private, then you can keep it in the DM, or you can create a private channel. But we just discussed the reason, thanks to Tiffany, why that may not be a great idea, because you might never be able to recover that content if you needed to, right? Also notice I have some private channels down here, and you can tell because instead of a hashtag, they have a lock next to them. And these are all dead. This 97 and up private channel was something I was using when this Slack workspace was being sort of given to a wider audience. It was originally offered to $25 and up and $97 and up members, and then I changed that and I made it exclusive to 97 and up. So nobody really gets into this channel anymore. But the reason they're sorted like this is because that's also in the preferences under sidebar. Under sorting and grouping, it's alphabetical, but then I checked off list private channels separately. And I like that option. I like keeping those private channels away and at the bottom, right? And there's other options here where you can say show everything or show only unreads and starred conversations and unreads only, and that's going to filter what you see on the left. So if you feel like this list of channels is too long and you don't want to see all these channels, you can configure it there to only show channels that have unread messages, right? I don't like that because then it's hard to see what channels there are. The other thing is channels are almost like subscriptions. You can join and unjoin and rejoin them. So you click on the word channels, and it shows you channels you can join. Matthew created this channel. I hadn't joined it yet. It's called Nerdy Excel. So I'm going to click now to join that channel. And then it just gives me a preview, and then I confirm that I'll join it. Okay? And if I go back to the channels list again by clicking on the word channels, now it gives me a list of all the channels. Of course, I belong to all of them. But if I want to leave channels to keep that list a little simpler, and because for whatever reason right now those topics just don't interest me, I can leave those channels and I can always join them again later, right? So that's how you kind of manage and navigate this kind of stuff. And you can use the search. So if I'm wondering, hey, is there a channel on Airtable? I can start typing Airtable, and there it is. What do we have for Slack itself? Right, we have a Learn Slack channel here. which somebody recently said, why isn't that just called Apps Slack like the others? And I said, because I had set this up when I first started this, and it was really meant to be a way to learn how we're using Slack in 97 and up, not necessarily how to use Slack in general, but obviously it can be used either way.
Well,
Okay. Yep.
Can you change the name of a channel? Edit it?
You can. So if I go into a channel, let's take About ABA, right, which is About Accounting Business Academy. If you want to change the name, you go into Channel Settings up here. So every channel, you have the settings, gear icon, and you can go to Additional Options. And here you can archive the channel, change it to a private channel, rename it. You can change the channel purpose, or simply delete the channel. Okay, so that's how you manage. Once you're in a channel, if you want to manage that channel, you're either going into settings or you're going here to the information icon. Right, and the information icon will show you all those channel details. What is the purpose? If I've taken the time to write one, it shows you related channels. This is Slack doing its AI thing. I don't know how it determines what's related here. It probably just goes based on what the discussions look like and maybe some of the keywords. It will give you, there's no highlights yet, but when the channel gets more active, it will add highlights. Pinned items is critical. This is how you find pinned items, right? I was going to cover this actually later in the content, but a pinned item is sort of like a global bookmark. It's specific to the channel, and everybody in that channel will see what you've pinned, right? And so here I had put in a link about resetting passwords or logging in here, which actually needs to go because now we're in the new website, so it's altogether different. And here I put in the original welcome to 97 and up message that you would get. That also has changed, so I probably can simply unpin these. But if I click on one of these, I get into that dialog. This will actually open it in a new window. Over here, I have some other choices. So the ellipsis menu is something you also want to pay attention to. Next to any message, you'll have choices. Because I'm looking at this one within the pinned items, the options are a little different. But if I go open original, it actually opened up a browser tab. So that's going to take you into the browser, which I don't want. I'm actually looking for a way to unpin this, but I don't see it right now. Usually you just click on the message and it takes you to where you can oh, here you go. You just exit, and that removes it. Perfect. And they've been making a lot of changes lately in Slack, too. I think that's one of them. Here I can see who all the members are in the channel. It looks like there's an app. Somebody attached Asana to the channel. Oh, well. And here you can see any files that have been shared. And I believe this is also channel specific. So anything having to do with stuff that goes on within a channel, you're going to look at this information icon, or you're going to look at the gear icon here, and then look at your options. Okay, so that takes care of, so that's your channels, right? Obviously, in each channel, and let me go back to one that's more active. Hold on. I'm going to go back to the general channel. Obviously, these are, you post messages, right? That's really the main purpose of Slack, is that you post these messages within each channel. So I can say, hey, and then you can tag, there are certain tags you can use, right? So I can put @everyone. This you want to use very sparingly. This is going to tag and send a notification to everybody in the channel. Notice I have 47 people in here. So even if somebody's not logged in, they're going to get an email notification letting them know that I've basically broadcast the message to the entire channel. And since we're in the general channel, effectively that's the entire workspace.
Hey, Seth, would that be one message or 47 towards your count of 10,000?
No, that's not going to be, those aren't messages that post in Slack. It's just a notification.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, this is just one message that I'm posting here, but using the @everyone tag is going to trigger a notification to go to every person who's in the channel. And
I thought everyone was everyone and @channel was the ones in the channel.
You're right. But since we're in the general channel, they're kind of one and the same, right? Because everyone in the workspace is in the general channel.
Okay.
So when you're in the general channel, you're right. @channel is the one that would only notify those in that channel. @everyone will notify everyone in the whole workspace for sure. So be careful, because this is a good way to get people to leave your Slack workspace if they get annoyed by it, right?
I love that it comes up with the message because I have some channels where I've got people across multiple time zones, and
Yeah.
it tells me how many time zones I'll be affecting, and I'm sure I want to send a message.
Yep. I'll show everybody what you're talking about. So when I hit enter now, it says, by using everyone, you're about to notify 47 people in 6 time zones. Are you sure? Yeah, why not? Screw it.
Which is cool also because it does have the night mode where you can have the, I'm going to sleep now.
Okay. So that's, now you're looking at posts, right? And then I wish Mariette was here for this, because then we have threads, right? Threads are a way to keep a conversation kind of in line. Remember, you know how in emails we used to reply in line, so you'd go in between the lines from the previous message and respond to each thing specifically? Well, that is effectively what threads let you do. So Jesse is in here in the general channel saying, thanks, my app is missing the passwords too. Weird thing is I checked the browser on the phone. Matthew came in here and posted, wow. So when I click on that, and let me back up, because you saw I clicked from the desktop notification that popped up. Matthew actually replied to this as a thread, which shows up like this now. If I click one reply, I can now reply to him within this thread. Okay, so that's what threads do. Now, keep in mind, and I pick on Mariette because she loves threads. She starts a thread on everything. I could post ABC here, and she would create a thread off of that to talk about ABC. She's like a thread psycho.
But very well organized.
Yeah, but it also sometimes makes it hard to track if you overdo it with the threads, because you don't necessarily get notified about them all unless you're mentioned, and it also makes it hard to go back and find a message later. So my thing is use them sparingly. You know, if the only time I really use threads is if a lot of messages have come up in between, so that posting it in the main feed now will kind of be out of context with where the original message was that I'm responding to. And even there, another option is I can take Tammy's message here that says potential client meeting, and I can sort of share the message right back to this same channel. So it will basically copy it down and put my reply right down there. So that's an alternative to threads. So because if you overdo it with the threads, it does actually make it very difficult to track after a while and to find stuff later. So again, I use them. They're useful, but use them sparingly. And that brings up another thing, which is what else can I do with a message? So let's go back to Jesse's message here, which I was going to pick on. And it's just easy to pull out because there's a decent amount of text in it. As I hover my mouse over each message, notice to my right, this little menu kind of follows me. So this menu is contextual based on whatever message it is that I'm actually selecting. And you can tell because there's a slight gray background that comes up over the selected message. And this is where you can start a thread, right? That's one option. I can add a reaction like somebody else has done here, right? And that's just a Facebook-like kind of thing where I can say, okay, duh. And then here's again how to share it. I can star it. Now, stars are kind of like pins, but they're personal. Nobody else can see them but me. And they're global. So when I go to my list of things that I've starred, it will show me all the things I've starred in all the channels that I've starred them in. But a lot of people use this as kind of a to-do list, right? So if I star this message and then I click the star up here, it will show me his is the most recent, and then working backwards. These are all the things I've starred, some of which I've probably long since forgotten about. But stars are things you want to kind of get back to because, you know, things can get buried in the feed as time goes on and as more and more messages get posted.
Seth, would you use that with the integration with QuickBooks Online, how Quick QBO goes to Slack? Do you use the stars? Is that, yeah.
I haven't played with that much, and we're running out of time. So while we're on the subject, let me show you something that's really cool that was supposed to come up much later, but we've actually talked about the pins and the stars. So I want to show you a zap that I created, because here's what happened for me is, as I just kind of showed you and explained, I've used the stars, but then I forget to go back and check the stars, right? And so it's one of those personal workflow things that you have to figure out. This may work perfectly for you. You may be great about remembering once a day to go in and check all your stars. But then are you going to check all your stars in 20 different Slack workspaces, right? So I decided that I couldn't rely on myself to go back and check these things, so I needed a better way. So here's what I did. Let's go to Zapier. I did this as a test in one channel, and it's kind of working perfectly. So I'm going to do it here. Zapier. And now I got to log in. Meanwhile, while I'm logging in, let's quickly check the Facebook feeds to see. Yeah, we're going to have to do the continuation of this. Larry commented on Facebook, Slack 2 next. Yeah, because I didn't count on doing the original overview. I thought everybody was already familiar with those basics. Larry asked, do you purchase an account for each client paid Slack? So we did cover that. I'm just not sure if Larry, if you had asked before or after we covered it. I'm assuming before. So we did cover the answer to that. But the quick answer, again, for now, is that the answer is I only pay for it when I'm required to because we've hit the message limit. James says, do you cover all things accounting, bookkeeping, tech, practice management, et cetera, in the 97 and up group? The answer is absolutely yes. Everything is covered. We do it all, especially since we have amazing members like Matthew who help complement my knowledge base, and everybody else in the group too is incredibly helpful with answers to questions that range across the whole spectrum. So the bottom line is, and my favorite sort of motto on this is, if any of us have had the experience, you're welcome to it. All right, so let's go to my zaps, and I'm going to make a zap. And we're going to start with Slack. All right, so we're choosing the app Slack, and then the trigger event is new starred message, right? So whenever I start message, can anybody guess where I'm headed with this? Continue. So now I have many Slack accounts, right? So I might have to add this one. Actually, we have Accounting Business Academy used in Zero Zaps. I guess I connected but not used it. So let's use it. I have to reconnect it. And I forgot the actual URL. I got to go look it up. It's it's sethdavid.slack.com. That's right. That was before I knew I was going to call this Accounting Business Academy. Now, one trick, because again, as I mentioned before, each of these subdomains is a separate login, but I just use the same logins for all of them. It makes it easier. So, and that way LastPass will log me into any Slack workspace. All right, so I'm basically installing that connection in Zapier, and then I'll continue. We'll test the connection. It's going to find a starred message. So it's going to probably find that one I just starred. And then I can go back up here and check that, or I can tell it what I want it to do next. In the interest of time, I'm just going to keep moving forward. So next, I want it to add a task into ClickUp. All right, we're going to create a task. I only have the one ClickUp account to work with. It needs to know the team. So we're going to do the Nerd Enterprises team. The space for now, I'll just use, normally I would use the space for the client. Remember, I have each client in their own space in ClickUp. But for now, and again, in the interest of time, I'll just use the headquarters. The project I have is called Nerd Main or Nerd HQ. And then the list, for now, I'll just call it Main High Level Tasks. Now, here's where it gets fun. The task name, when I click, when you have something like this where it has the plus sign, this is where I can dynamically pull information from the source. So I'm going to dynamically pull, I can pull the text. That's a little much for the task name, right? So what I might want to do is just do a combination. So I'll do the channel name, space dash space, and probably the user's real name, right? That way I know where it came from exactly. Let's see what else, if anything, I can grab here. I can stick the team name in there too. But that's fine. You get the idea. The description, I'm going to grab the whole entire message, right? So that's the text. And what this does, because what I was about to do is I was about to start like trying to copy and paste the message into a task in ClickUp, and then I'm like, wait, no, that's dumb. I can just have Zapier do this for me. So when this is all done, it's going to just, I hit the star, it'll show up in ClickUp like in 5 minutes at the most, right? So the task status, I'm just going to leave open, right? The assignee, I can say should be me. Never mind, because it's not pulling names from ClickUp for that. So I'll go back and play with that to figure that out. And then the due date, I'll just leave blank. So, and now I'll send the test to ClickUp. And then I'll go into ClickUp on my other screen. And this way I can kind of just show you what it looks like there in a second. And I'll turn that zap on. So now anytime I star a new message in ClickUp, or in Slack rather, it's going to show up in ClickUp. So here is my sort of main project where I sent that to in ClickUp, and here's the task. Notice it says General Jesse Clayton. And here it has all the text that he had in his message, right? So this is a pretty cool way of making sure that I don't forget to follow up on things that I've started in Slack, right? Basically, in an instant, as quickly as I can start in Slack, it'll show up in ClickUp as a task that I need to do. Okay, couple of other quick things I want to show you, and then, yeah, we'll continue this next week. I don't have a topic set up yet, so that works out well, because there's a lot that I didn't get to show. If you do, where is it? Control K I showed you gets you into the search dialog. That used to actually toggle or give you an opportunity to jump either to a channel specifically or to another workspace. That's what they took away that I'm not happy about. But the other way is, notice I'm in the Accounting Business Academy channel. If I want to move down to, say, Classic or to Between Wall and Main, first of all, if I press and hold the Control key for a second, it will come up with numbers. The first 9 channels. So if I hit Control and hit that number, it will take me right to that channel. Right? These are some little navigation tips that I think are important. This is the kind of stuff that from when I watch other people and how they work in Slack, it looks to me like they're kind of missing, right? The other way you can do it is if you want to toggle a workspace, Control Tab and Control Shift Tab will take you back. Right? So Control Tab will move you down the list here that's on my left. Control Shift Tab will move you back up that list. So you can toggle workspaces pretty quickly that way. And then the other thing is if you press Control and / on the right, you're going to get a whole list of keyboard shortcuts. I highly recommend you study this and look for the things that you're going to find useful that are going to help you do things quickly and easily. If you're on a Mac, it might be Command / Try Control. If that doesn't work, try Command. Usually it's one or the other with the Mac. And so next week we'll pick up with this. I'll go back into a little bit more detail on this stuff, and then we'll get into, there's ways you can format posts. You can actually edit your comments. I notice a lot of people will type a message and post it, and then when they realize they want to make a correction, they just type another message, which you don't need to do. You can actually go and edit your message. I'm going to show you how to do that next week. And we'll show you a couple different ways of editing messages from the most recent to any other message that you've posted. Obviously, you can't edit somebody else's. I also want to show you the reminders features in Slack. That's really cool. I showed you the Zap with the stars, which is really cool. And we'll dig a little bit more into the search. There's some pretty cool under the hood sort of search options here that we'll get into next week. So join me next week for part 2 of Slack nuggets and things that'll make your life better. Any questions? Where everybody's just thinking, like Gina said.
Is there a way to do a mass delete if you want to clean up a workspace?
I don't think so. You might reach out to Slack support to do that. But if it's that bad, just start a new workspace. And you can change the URL of the existing workspace. So if you want to use the same URL, change the URL on the existing one and then start a new workspace with the one you originally had. That would be the best way to mass delete literally everything. Right? And well, the other thing is you can just delete all the channels, right? And then create new ones. All right, looks like a couple of people had to go. So don't forget to join Gina's Hangout today if you're around, 2:30 or 2 o'clock Pacific. Go to SBAA on Facebook and join her group there, and then she'll give you the instructions for how to join her Hangout. They usually have kind of an open discussion and then decide what they'll talk about, and then they go live and talk about it. and I will see you all around the web.